Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Welcome to the Dr. Dex podcast. Today I have my guest is from a little bit away. I'd say it's on Kauai. Hawaii. Okay, Mike Young from Aloha Construction. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
And mahalo for having me.
Mahalo, yes, indeed. We'll go over some Hawaiian terms and technology a little bit later in this podcast. But man, it's okay. So normally we're used to like doing 2 p.m. on the Pacific Coast time because we deal with a lot of East Coast people. So they're 3 hours ahead of us. So it's like 5 p.m. their time. So now you're 3 hours before us, correct?
So we're 11 a.m. right now. Yes.
Okay. So you're 3 hours before. So that's kind of nuts because we're used to being the early birds, but you're actually the early bird, right?
Right.
So you're 6 hours. So when you travel to the East Coast, that's a lot. That's a decent,
that's a
healthy.
killer. Yes.
That's a healthy time change, right?
Yes.
You lose
sure.
like half a day, and boy, I bet you're all sideways on that one.
Yeah. For a while after, it takes a lot to reset after that.
I bet. Okay, Mike. Well, tell me about you a little bit and about your business.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm located on the island of Kauai, and so we're referred to as the Garden Island. Over here is it's a real small island that it's really island lifestyle, more country living. We don't have big cities, big city lights and all that. We have a 2-lane highway that goes from one side of the island to the other side of the island, and it doesn't connect. And so you're backtracking if you make it all the way to Haena to get back to my side, which I'm located in Kalaheo, which more is on the south side of the island. Aloha Construction has been established for 20 plus years now. And we specialize in renovation and remodeling and everything that entails. But we've really gotten known for and big into deck building, which is how you and I had crossed paths a while ago. And we've kind of developed a name for ourselves alongside that too. You have to keep in mind that it's such a small island that it's hard to do what's done in the mainland, where you can just stick to one specialized niche. You have to be a little bit more well-rounded in order to continue to work year-round. And so with that being said, we also have some new builds coming up again. We got out of new builds probably during the 07, 08 crash. And then we kind of shifted gears, but we've got some that are on our plate. One that's in building and planning, waiting for permitting right now. And then a couple that we're also looking at.
I definitely want to get into building and planning, and like whenever you're working on the waterfront or on a seashore, and I'm just curious, but let's not get into it yet, because what I like to do first, before we get into all the construction stuff and all the juicy stuff, I want to know a little bit about you and your history and how your family, your orientation. Are you native to the island? Are you native? Are you a native Kauai? Or tell me how did your family migrate there? Or do you know?
Yeah, so I do know, and I'm actually big into genealogy. When I do have free time, I love going down that rabbit hole. And it's real interesting to me because I'm made up of so many different ethnicities. And so my dad's family is from the island of Kauai. And so we go generations back.
Really?
Yes. And so, but on that same note, on my dad's side, we also have Portuguese family and mixed in with some Korean as well. And so, and that's my dad's side, that are all from this island. My Portuguese side, they came over during the migration to work in the plantation fields, and same with my Korean side. My mother's side, my grandfather was a German immigrant and who migrated to Salt Lake City, Utah. So I actually grew up in Utah, and I've been back. And so I would fly back and forth to Oahu to stay with family growing up as a kid, as well as Kauai. If I'm being honest, I didn't really care too much for coming to Kauai as a kid because we had a lot of family here, and so there was a lot of responsibilities. I would have to.
Mm.
I felt like I'd have to. Well, if you go back to those days,
Hmm.
my grandfather, my grandparents, who he would stay with, they did a lot of. They didn't do a lot of grocery shopping, so he would go fishing for dinner. He would work in the taro patch. We call it the lo'i. So he would work in the taro patch, and so we would go along with my grandfather and do these what I would classify as at that time as chores, not a vacation. So I didn't care for it too much. And then
Hmm.
on the way
Hmm.
home, on the way back to my grandparents' house, he would stop off at family and friends' house and exchange taro or exchange fish, and they would give him fruits or vegetables. And so that was kind of the how I understood Kauai to be as a kid, which is the reason why I like to go to Oahu to be with my other family. There was a city, there were all kinds of things going on there. There was a lot of action. But
Yeah.
as I got older, I really came to value the lifestyle on this little island, my connection to the island, and the family. But those are things that you don't learn to appreciate, I think, until your later years.
I 100% agree with you. My wife and I, we were on Oahu 30 years ago, and we had a lot of fun. You know, we were like in our mid 20s. Everything was fun,
Yeah,
crazy, drink, whatever. But we recently came back 30 years later, and the international marketplace had changed, and
yeah,
everything is so built up, and the
right.
locals are wrapping their Harleys out at 2 a.m. because they're pissed off that all the tourists are there, and just waking us up in the hotels. Our hotel, I can't remember. We stayed at somewhere on the beach, and they didn't tell us that the lanais were structurally not safe to go out on. So when we got there, our sliding door to go out to the lanai was screwed shut.
Yeah, yeah.
I was so pissed because we spent so much money to go on this little romantic getaway, and it was like my wife didn't get any sleep at all, man. She was just, and people are screaming all night long. I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah,
nuts. So if you're into that action, yeah, Wahoo's great. But
right.
next time I said, you know what, honey, I think we need to do this again, but we got to go back to Maui. Maui was a favorite of ours, but I've never been to Kauai, so maybe we'll come
Oh,
visit you instead,
you
man.
need to. You need to.
Yeah,
It's
I do.
absolutely beautiful out here. It is to me. So we staycation. We go staycation on the Big Island of Hawaii. We also go
Mm-hmm.
staycation on Maui. And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I'm going to Oahu for a weekend getaway tomorrow. And
Oh,
so
cool.
we island hop,
Mm-hmm.
but real island country living, you're gonna get it over here.
Now, are you going to jump a plane, or are you going to take a boat, or what?
Yeah, that's funny because we take a plane ride. It's about
Mm-hmm.
20-25 minutes, easy peasy.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go back to Utah.
Yeah.
And so you grew up in what part of Utah?
So Salt Lake City, Utah, but more
Mm-hmm.
specifically South Jordan. The reason
Okay.
why, and so I'm sure you're thinking, why Utah? My parents met in Hawaii, and so what brought them to Utah? And so I was raised as a Mormon, and
Okay.
so at that time there was a huge migration of to have Mormons go to Utah, and so that's how we ended up there. Is my both of my parents felt like that was within their faith, what
Okay.
they were supposed to do.
So were you born in Utah?
I was my only my older brother was born in Hawaii, and when
Mm-hmm.
my mother was pregnant with me, they decided that they wanted to have a big family. They ended up having 9 kids. I'm the second oldest of nine,
Wow.
and
Wow.
they knew that they couldn't afford to do that in the islands, and
Right.
so yeah, Utah is where it was.
Okay. Okay. So then, so growing up, like, if you went over to grandma and grandpa's house, they put you to work. So what was your childhood like, and going into junior high and high school?
Yeah. So then my grandparents on my mother's side, they lived in Utah. They lived in
Hmm.
Sandy, Utah. And my grandfather, German immigrant who left during the Great Depression, and or I'm sorry, he left during when all this stuff was going down in Germany, and ended up in Utah and learned to just live on anything. I mean, there's stories of, that he had told as a kid that he, sometimes all they could eat was mice and rats that they caught, cooked
Oh,
in lard, and true survival, right? And so he had a big farm. So he had sheep, he had goats, he had cows, horses, chickens, ducks, and then a huge garden. I want to say that he had about 3 acres of land. And so
wow.
as a kid, and I'm talking from I think 6 or 7 years old, every weekend, and during the summer times, we would spend weeks living with my grandparents. We were to go work the farm, and those days is really how I learned my work ethic, how that was developed. And so that was everything from ranching to farming to gardening, just everything. And
Wow.
so yeah, that was from 7 years old. Um, Again, since my parents had 9 kids, I was second oldest. I was Obviously I was expected to contribute in more ways than one. So it's expected to contribute with the normal household duties and stuff, and also financially. And so, if you could think about it, which is pretty much unheard of in today's day and age, and they would attach other words to it that I would completely disagree with. But I was out hustling at a very young age. By the age of by the time I reached grade 5, I had a I had a job, a paycheck payroll job at 5th grade. And
Hmm.
I was cleaning, I was a custodian after school for the local elementary school. And I rode my bike there 5 days a week and did my cleaning thing, which would take about 2.5 hours. And then I would ride my bike back home. It was about a 5 mile one way bike ride. And I did that ever since 5th grade. I was on payroll, and I still have my very first paycheck stub. And
Wow.
so by grade 5, I was buying my own school clothes. I was paying for my own school, everything, my school books, my pencils, pens, everything like that, and then contributing to the household for like phone bill, electricity bill, and even snacks and food kind of stuff. And so I've been working a job, like paycheck job, since 5th grade. And 5th grade is, I don't even know, what is that, like 10 years old?
Yeah, man,
I mean,
You got me beat by 6 years at least.
it's crazy when you think about it. But hey, I appreciate the hustle, and
Yeah, me too. I respect you for this. This is really interesting. And do you think that's part of the Mormon lifestyle that they instilled these values in you at such a young age?
so actually, as a double whammy, it was part of the Mormon lifestyle, and then also the plantation lifestyle. So I got it from
Ah,
both. I
okay.
got it from both sides. That you work
Wow.
and you love work. You don't complain about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
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 yeah.
so okay. So then you went through grade school and you had this custodial job. So then when you got into junior high, were you into academics at all, or sports, or anything like that, or was it all about work?
So a lot of work. Yeah, a lot of work for sure. I did like sports. I played basketball. I played soccer, and I was really good at soccer, and I was okay at basketball. But I wasn't. My older brother, he was the athlete, and so I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't compare to him. And
Mm.
so And so I think, and then if I'm being honest, the school setting, that whole thing just, that just wasn't my thing. I had a hard
Mm-hmm.
time being cooped up into a classroom. See, I just had a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
They put letters to that now, but me, I had a hard time being cooped up in a classroom, and that whole thing, and so I became, I guess you would call it a troubled youth, and um, and
Okay.
so and so my older brother, he was straight and narrow. This guy, he got straight A's all through school, all through school. He was superstar on the field, no matter what sport he was playing, and I could never compare to that. So I went the opposite direction.
Okay. Cool. And so, so you go through junior high, you get into high school. What was that like for you?
High school, yeah, high school again. I just, I don't know, but high school is kind of trippy because if you feel like you have to attach yourself to one group of people, and
Mhm.
so um, in high school, I was a guy that was friends with everybody and stuff, but I didn't feel like I had a specific group that I stuck with. I was friends with, I don't even know if they'd label these anymore. I was friends with the jocks, and I hung out with those guys, the athletes, and
Mhm.
but I wasn't an athlete,
Right.
and I think at that time growing up in Utah, Utah is different now. Even though I haven't lived in Utah for about 25 years, when we go back to visit, Utah is a changed place. When I was growing up, Utah was a bubble, which is the reason why I felt like I had so much. There was so much pressure, and another
Mhm.
reason why I kind of wanted to, ever since I was a kid, kind of get out of there. And so I just felt like I was in this bubble, and I never lived up to any expectations of anybody. And so high school, I thrived in wood shop. I loved wood shop.
Oh
I loved wood
man,
shop,
yeah.
and I loved wood shop. I loved auto mechanics, and they
Mhm.
don't even teach those in school
I
anymore.
know. It's so
Which is,
unfortunate.
it is. It's so unfortunate. But those are the two that I love to do. I didn't. So in high school, they actually had a construction class where that class, you would go on a legit job site built by the high school, and you would work as a tradesman. And I
Mm.
didn't take that because I was already working construction in high school. So I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna dial back to a little bit
Yeah,
earlier,
please do.
even before I was in fifth grade. I was the one. So I was one of four boys, one of nine kids. But it was me that was always the one that had to go with my father. My dad was a construction guy. He was a union carpenter from Honolulu,
Mhm.
and then he carried that over when he moved to Salt Lake, Utah. And so he worked every weekend, and even after he worked his normal job during the weekday, he would come home and he would go do a side job. I was the one out of all the nine kids and four boys that had to go with my dad to all of his side jobs. So as I remember being in like second grade, my job was, because at that time he was doing framing and drywall. So it was my job to, um, at first, to go through and pick up all the nails, all the screws, separate them into piles, determine which ones were rubbish and toss those, and then put the other ones in their proper boxes. That's what I started doing. That, and then sweeping the job site, keeping it clean. As I got older, by fifth grade, I was helping him haul in all materials. And by the time I was in junior high school, I was full on running a screw gun alongside with him, and on the tools, doing what I could, but still yet I was working side by side with my dad. By the time I was in high school, I was a part timer for the company, and after hours, right after high school was over, for the day, I would go to the job site and work the last 2.5 hours, alongside with the construction crew. Um, and to be honest with you, that kind of made me not like construction because it was something that I had to do from an early age every day. And again, it was always me thinking, man, out of four boys in the family, why am I the one I always have to go with dad,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have a choice. And but again, I contribute that to how it is, because when I tried to get out of construction, I missed the calluses on the hands. I missed the smell of cut lumber and sawdust. I missed all that stuff. I miss being outside in the open, or working in one location for a month, a different location another month. I missed all that. And so, it was one of those things. I felt like I was fighting the inevitable, but yeah, it ended up bringing me back around to what I was. I don't want to say destined, but maybe so. Maybe it was destined to
Yeah.
do that.
Well, we all choose a path, we all walk it,
Yeah.
and having a set of skills at such a young age is always a good thing, regardless if you implement them for the rest of your life or not. They always come in handy at some point in time. I'm a firm believer in that. So okay. So let's see. Where were we? You're kind of in high school and you're
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
So what high school did you go to?
Yeah. So I went to Bingham High School. They're well known now for their football program. At the time that I went there, they weren't so. Actually, they were known more for basketball. The time that I went there, they were taking back
Mm-hmm.
to back states and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so they had a really good athletic program. Yeah, I feel like in high school I got caught up into making money, and I think the reason is because I'd been working at such an early age. I'm a very competitive person in that nature, and so I used to play this. I used to play this game where I would keep my paychecks and not cash them in, and then after 2 months, when I had like 8 paychecks, I would go cash them all in because I felt like a top dog, like a high roller, with the bank counting all these bills, to me. And then everybody would always tell me, you can't do that. You're gonna cash the checks as they come in.
Yeah,
And
right.
so when I was a junior in high school, I was like, I was when I was a junior in high school, with all the jobs I was working, I was also working Wendy's, fast food, and
Okay.
that was when I was 15
What
years
what
old.
what'd you do at Wendy's?
I was I was the grill guy and the fry
Yeah.
guy.
So are you good at cooking a hamburger?
I can cook a hamburger, but that's basically all I can cook. That's all I want to cook, because my wife is one hell of a cook. So
Is she?
nobody's
Oh,
gonna
good for
yeah.
you.
Oh, I'd much rather eat my wife's cooking than any restaurant. That's real.
Oh
But
man, that's awesome.
yeah, so I was working at Wendy's at that time, and I was like, and with all my side jobs and everything, I was on top of the world. I was like, man, can you believe a guy at 15 years old has this kind of money? And then I was like, I'm gonna drop out of high school, and
Ooh.
yeah,
Okay.
and so I didn't. So I missed like almost one whole semester, and then I got called into the principal's office, and they told me that they're kicking me out of school because I don't go. And then that's
Mm-hmm.
when it got real for me, because it was like, oh, I wanted to do this on my terms. I didn't want anybody else to tell me that I can't attend here. I much rather just
Mm-hmm.
not show up. And
Mm-hmm.
but once you get official like that and start putting it on paper, then that changes everything. And so then I told them, I said, no, I'm gonna take it serious now. I did summer school, got back on track so that I could get my diploma and walk with the class. But there was a lot of trying to figure out things like life, the pressures of a big family, the pressures of a multi-ethnicity family, the pressures of the religion. I had all that to go through, and it's no different. I understand everybody's got their thing that they go through, but that was my thing. That was my thing. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. All right, cool. So you graduate high school. I take it. Did you go to college?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so,
Hell
but
no.
I didn't want to make assumptions, because
Yeah.
you never know. Okay, so my assumption would be that you went to work.
Right away. Right
Okay,
away.
so tell me about that. What was
Yeah.
your did things change much? I mean, you already had a job, but now you're full time. You can go to work full time,
Yeah. And
50,
you know
60
what?
hours a week.
I tell you, it got real. It got real after I graduated high school. I think it was like a Friday graduation. Monday, driving to the job site with my dad at 5 o'clock in the morning with a
Uh,
tool belt. And I was like, what in the world? And then it hit me again when when school started back up again and we're driving past the high school and everybody's going to school and I'm trying to earn a paycheck. But yeah, yeah. I mean, literally right after I graduated, I got hired on for the same company that I had been working with alongside with my dad, and
okay,
um, and at that time we were doing commercial projects. We were doing commercial projects, and it was I was doing scaffolding, framing, and drywall, which is also tape and texture. So I was doing all that, and then for commercial projects, and then we ended up the Utah Jazz where they played. It was called the Delta Center, and so we got the contract for the Delta Center doing the suites in the Delta Center, and so worked on that also. And so
cool.
yeah, it was all construction because after that then my dad got carpal tunnel in both of his arms, so he was completely out of it. And so I would have to go work his side jobs after work, and he would instruct me what to do, but he couldn't do anything because he was completely out without having his two arms. And so, yeah,
Yeah, I just
that. All that was 17 years old and 18 years old at that point.
wow.
Yeah.
I just was diagnosed with carpal tunnel in one of my hands, and
Oh boy.
my fingers are numb all the time, man. And I'm just trying to figure out. They say it's an 8 week, like a 8 week recovery on the operation.
Yeah. And but that,
I
yeah.
know. Yeah. So I'm like, I talked to my doctor. We agreed. I said, hey, man, I probably got 15 years left of construction in me. I said, I don't think I'd have these operated on until after I'm done building decks.
Right.
He's like, I agree with you. If you can handle it, he said it might be better to wait instead of trying to, dismantle your hands and stuff, and have these operations done. And
Yeah.
I'm go
The
ahead.
funny thing about that is that is when I was doing a lot of concrete forming and concrete work. Let's see, that was about, I'd say maybe 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I felt like I was starting to get carpal tunnel, and it was the same thing. Every morning I'd wake up with my hands tingling, and then even throughout the day and everything, and it was so long ago I don't remember, but I started looking into alternative ways to combat it, and
Hmm.
whatever I did seemed to work. And I guess that would
Good for
depend
you.
on what level you had it. But I was
Right.
the same as you. I was like, what good am I going to be if I can't use my hands? This is putting
Right.
food on the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly.
So
It's
I
definitely a
did go through it.
concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you're 17, 18 years old. You're doing this commercial construction. You're doing side jobs for your dad because he's breaking down.
Yeah.
And what happens after? Where you go from there?
Yeah. So I did that. I did that for I did that for a while. I learned some life lessons the hard way. I went down, like I said, during that time, I was going down all these different paths. I mean, we call that kolohe. I was trouble. I
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
just taking a different route in life and whatnot, and trying to find out who I was and what I wanted to be. I was fighting the fact that I was looking at my dad that and thinking I don't want to be that guy. I mean, and the thing is because all he did was work. That's all he did is he worked. And so when we would take our 2:15s and then our lunch break, everybody else while they're having smokes and having snacks and eating and stuff, my dad would go and find a pile of drywall or a drop of lumber to go sleep. So
Mm.
that's what he would have for break and for lunch is his sleep. That's where he'd catch up on his sleep. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. Right.
That's not the life for me. And
Mm.
but I attached that with that's construction life. That's what I attached
Mm.
that to, and then also the price you pay for wanting to have so many kids, and so yeah. So I battled with who I was and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to become, and so I didn't know, and especially in Utah, you know, with the Mormon religion being such a big thing, all of most of my friends and classmates were going on these Mormon missions where you leave at the age of 19 and for 2 years gone preaching the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go on a mission, and that wasn't for me. And so I just felt like kind of like an outsider because college wasn't for me, a mission wasn't for me. Well, what does that leave? Work, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff. And so yeah, so I just continue to basically just continue to work, and then as I was going down I'll call it one of my sideways paths,
Mm.
I met my wife, and she basically was like, what are you doing? You're better than you're better than this, you're better than where you're going, you're better than who you're hanging with, and this and then that's all she wrote. I mean, she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, and she brought that out in me. And
Wow.
so then that went to the next chapter of my life. That was the new me after that.
And
And that was
how
at the
old were
age of,
you at this point? When was this
yeah,
turning point?
I
How
was
old were you?
20. I was 20.
20.
Yeah.
Okay. Still really young.
Still young. Yeah, still young.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so you meet this girl
Yeah.
and she's helping you better yourself.
Yeah.
And what happens from there?
Yeah, so we dated for we dated for 5 months. We knew each other for 5 months. So we
Mhm.
dated for 5 months, and then we got married. And
Wow.
so and so let's see. Oh man, I know I'm gonna mess this up. 32 years? Yeah, 32 years I've
Uh-huh.
been married. Yeah. 32
I'm right
years, three
behind you,
kids later.
man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're still in Utah at this time?
We're still in Utah. And so, so then what ended up happening with that is I so we get married, and then the whole, oh, I'm in love and all the butterflies thing and whatnot, that lasts for a split second until you realize that means even more bills and more responsibilities. So we ended up living with my in-laws, my wife's parents, um, for the first, I think, year and a half. And we had my oldest daughter, Kiele. We had her while we were living in there, and we had one bedroom in there for us. And then that's when we were like, we need to get our own place, we need to get our own house. So yeah, so then we purchased a house in West Jordan, Utah, which is still in Salt Lake County. And when we were 22 years old, and and we ended up having two more kids while we were in there. Now, at that time, I was working only a little bit side jobs in construction, but at that time, when I first got married, is when I was like, I'm over it with construction. I don't know what I want to do. And I still got to make money. So while I figure it out, I'm just going to focus on paychecks and the size of the paychecks and get out of construction. Because you got to understand that I mean, I don't know how it is in Seattle, but in Utah, winters are crazy. And so it was like, I cannot do the cold. And to be freezing cold, every day for, I forget, maybe like 3 months straight is just, I give it to everybody that has to work in those winters
Yeah,
because I
that's
did it
rough.
and I hated it. It is rough.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, so I'd wanted to get out of construction. So, but I knew what I needed to make money wise to be able to support my family, my wife and my daughter. And so I was working at Dollar Rent a Car at the Salt Lake Airport. So I was working that full time. I had a management position up there, and then I was custodian. I clean banks and office buildings every 6 days out of the 6 days out of the week after hours, and then on Saturdays and Sundays, those were crazy days. On Saturdays and
Mm.
Sundays, I worked a warehouse uh, job on a forklift for frozen foods, and
Wow.
so it had to be like, I forget, but however many degrees below zero to keep all these frozen foods, so that they could be shipped out. And I ended up having to I had turned into my dad, except for not in the construction world. I didn't sleep ever. It was just all work, work, work. And I did that for I did that for a good year and a half, probably almost 2 years. And I ended up really looking at it because one day I hopped off of the forklift at that freezer, that frozen foods company position. I hopped off the forklift and I collapsed. My legs didn't work, and
Oh.
so I'm laying down on this frozen concrete floor because my legs were frozen. They just didn't work. It was the weirdest thing. I was literally
Mm.
paralyzed, and so then I had to quit that position because it was taking a toll on my system, and then
Mm-hmm.
reanalyzed it and whatnot, and then decided to go get back into construction in some sense of it. And I got into this. So this is the path that led me to getting back into construction and then also being a business owner. So I got into the low
Mm.
voltage industry, which was basically like audio systems, home theater systems, central vacuum systems, intercom systems, video, voice, and data. So that's what I got into. And I was working for this company that was a well-known company in Utah, and they decided to pay me piece rate because I was working 7 days a week, about 10 to 12 hours a day. And so they saw the size of my paycheck. So they thought, I'm going to pay this guy piece rate, and thinking that it's going to take down the size of my checks. So they
Mm-hmm.
put me on piece rate, and they didn't realize that I'm just a hard worker. So then, about a year later, they have a company meeting, and they pull me in. They said, it doesn't make sense that you're making more money than us as the owners. And I said, well, you guys established this piece rate. They're like, well, maybe we didn't establish it right because we probably made it too easy because that's the reason why you're making so much money. So then they didn't realize that I was working 7 days a week, 12,
Oh.
14 hours a day. And
Mm.
I just remember I was on this one job, and this electrician that I had been working side by side with on all these projects, all of a sudden one day, he's the boss man. He's got a nice truck. He's got all new tools and stuff. And so I talked to him. I said, hey, how did you do it, man? You used to be, the same as me, a laborer. How did you do it? And so he told me, he said, the rule that I live by is be the first guy on the job site and the last guy to leave. And I took that to heart. So I started getting to the job site 4 o'clock in the morning, taking a nap in my truck until the sun started to come up about 5:30, string cords, go back and nap until the sun came up or until we were allowed to make noise at 7:30.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was the first guy, and then the last guy. I would always make sure that I was never home before the sun went down. And
Mm.
it literally that's what went in my head. That's what success is. First guy on a job site, last guy to leave. And that's what my mantra became. And so I worked this low voltage until they decided to keep on cutting my pay. And then I quit working for them, went and worked for about a year and a half for my father-in-law, who was a master plumber. Um, and then and then that didn't end well. The thing is kind of to take it back to all the jobs. So all the jobs that I've ever had, if I didn't quit first, I got fired from them. But I got
Mm.
fired from them because I always knew a better, more efficient way to do the job, but I wasn't qualified to speak on it. Nah, you were hired just to do the job. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. And um and so and so then that caused me to get loud and have disagreements, and then, okay, yeah, out of here. But it's funny because the low voltage company that I'd worked for after I quit, years later I became their main competition, and one of the owners actually told me, he said, you were the biggest mistake to let you leave. We didn't notice the value that you were until it was too late. So that
Oh
was,
man,
that was pretty cool. But so yeah,
vindication.
so then after I quit working for my father-in-law, I called my wife up and I told her, I said, you know what, I can't work for anybody. And I said, I got to start my own business. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I cannot work for anybody. And she told me, and I said, if you can give me 1 year, I said, give me 1 year. If it doesn't work, then I'll go back to work in a job, and however many it takes to support the family. But if you can give me 1 year, I promise you that I'll make it work. And I'm 30 plus years in business.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Okay, so what when you hit that point where you wanted to start your own business, are you still in Utah?
still in Utah. Yep,
Okay,
still in Utah.
so go through the process of how you went still in Utah and in your business to end up relocating.
Yeah, so I was 23 years old when I started up my first business, and and so yeah, so I started it as a low voltage company. Hometronics
Mm-hmm.
was the name. And I really, really built it up. We had a really good clientele base, and I think I ran it for the first 9 years while in Utah, and I mean, we were doing some big stuff before big stuff was even happening. I mean, I was involved in a project. I was part of a project, and it's there's no wow feature to it now, but during that time it was completely off the charts, especially for Utah, that we had a voice recognition home where the whole home was integrated for voice recognition. It was for a handicapped
Cool.
lady, and she could while she pulled into her garage, she could just say out loud, no phone. She could say out loud, warm me up a pot of coffee, fill the bathtub up 75% to 76 degrees, turn on the foyer lights, the hallway lights, and the bathroom, and everything would come on. Put on whatever Barry Manilow, volume setting 10, and all this happened. I was part of that project at the time. Was unreal. It just wasn't happening anywhere, and so the company
Right.
had a lot of growth and stuff. But the thing is the more you grow, the bigger you become, then the more problems you have, and the bigger the problems, right? They go hand in hand. Um, And so if you don't have the ways of managing those problems, what ended up happening was I found myself in court like once a month, not because of me, but because of dishonest people not paying their bills. And to me,
Mm,
I always thought, especially where we were at, Salt Lake City, Utah, I always thought if you signed the contract and agreed to pay, when the job is done, this price, I just thought, that's how people operate. Okay, I did the job, everything's good and works, and you're happy, you pay. But what ended up happening, a lot of times people just, some of them would just outright be like, well, our project went over budget, and you're not the only guy that's not getting paid. We haven't paid this guy, and so that started happening a lot. People just
mm.
overextending their construction loans, and to me, I attach that to the people, not to that specific person, but to the people as a whole. So I'm talking about to the state, to the community, to the religion. I attached it to that. I told my wife, I got to get out of here because I'm going to court. I won every single one, but people don't understand. A win is only a win. Getting the money that they owe you
That's
is a
something else.
whole nother thing. You know,
Right.
I had no idea. I learned that the hard way. So I had all these wins. Oh yeah, I won. But I lost because I had to pay for the attorney, and then these people didn't have any money. And so that got me into a really actually that got me into a really negative mind state. I mean, I kind of really had some issues at that time because I just knew that I was an honest person. I thought that everybody else was the same way. I didn't realize how a lot of people could be. So I told my wife, I got to get out of here. And so I think now's the time. I want to go back to Hawaii. I want to be around family. I want to raise the kids in that environment. The kids were still in grade school, and so yeah, so then we took a 2 week trip out, and actually we went to Oahu, we went to the Big Island, and we went to Kauai. I actually didn't think I'd be able to find any land or a house to get in Kauai. I didn't think that was possible, and but we ended up finding, and this was 20 plus years ago, maybe 25 years ago. We ended up finding, and it was like in one of the last days that we were here, we found this property, and we purchased it. It was a land. It was a quarter-acre parcel in a newly development, or a newly developing area, and that's where we ended up, building the house at. The funny thing is we built in '06, '07. It was supposed to be a spec home. I was going to do two spec homes and then keep the third. So the offer, that we had, right before the market crash, was just a little bit under what I had expected it to be at.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned it down. Market crashes. I started getting really, really low ball offers. Thank
Mm,
goodness we were good with money, so we didn't lose the house like everybody else around us was.
mm,
And um and so then we ended up, keeping the house, turned it to a landlord for a couple of years with it, and then decided, you know what, I think that's the house we're supposed to be in. So we ended up moving in. And the cool story about that is the property that I built our house on is the same property that my father and my uncles were assigned to in high school when they used to pick pineapples. This is the house that I built my house at, was his area that he worked in
mm.
high school. And so that's like
Wow.
that's full circle right there.
Yeah, man. That is full circle. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
Uh-huh.
So you come over, you build these houses. Is that when you became Aloha Construction?
No, we became Aloha Construction in Utah, and we didn't do good. We did two homes, and it was me, my dad, and my older brother, and we did two homes, and we failed like hard.
Mm.
And the reason is because of mismanagement of funds, miscommunication. I mean, everything aligned with that. But I had been running my business already at that time for some years, so I understood business and how to run it and how to do the budgeting and whatnot. So I knew that it failed there, but I knew that I would make it a success by myself elsewhere. And so I decided to bring that to Kauai. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So how long have you been in business on Kauai for?
For 20, man, I want 22 years, maybe 23 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Right
All
around
right.
there.
And so did you end up building three homes like you originally planned, or because of the crash you only did one? Or
No. Yeah, because of the crash, we only did the one, and then again I had to shift. And so after the crash happened, everybody's losing their houses, nobody's building new builds unless, or especially spec homes. And
mm-hmm.
so that's when I shifted and decided to get into renovation and remodeling work. And and so when I went down that route, I it was an eye opener because of a couple things. You never know how good something is built until you take it apart, because all you're looking at is what's in front of you. And so
Right.
it might look nice, it might look pretty, but you don't know all the other layers, that's behind that, and if they were done properly or not. And it was interesting that, so that's really how I learned proper construction techniques and the science behind building, that there's more to it than just this many nails for this board, this type of screw, this. There's so much more than that. As far as diving deeper into like water mitigation and everything else that goes into not just the building aspect of it, but the longevity of what you're going to be turning over and putting your name behind. And that's how I learned it, is through remodeling and renovating, because when you start to peel back the layers and consistently, this is where it always fails. This is where it always fails. Well, why is it always failing in this area? And then you start to dive deeper and educate yourself on that. And so I thought that I was getting into remodeling and renovation work for the time while the market wasn't good. I didn't realize that that's what I was going to be building a name for and becoming specialized in. And so because of that, I just stuck with it. And so, would I rather start with a fresh slate, and a new canvas and empty lot, and oh yeah, and that's why I'm probably going to be getting back in that game with these new ones that are going to be coming up. But it's like, once you build up your brand for something, I mean, why not stick with it?
Right.
That's what people know you for. And I get a lot of guys in the industry, that'll tell me, they're like, you're nuts to continue to be in that field. That field is so demanding, all the hard work to take it apart, and then you have all the thinking, on the spot thinking that you got to do to put it back together. But we've got it dialed in. We've really got it dialed in. And so I'd be an idiot to close that down, after this many years of building up that brand.
How many people do you have working with you?
Yeah. So here's the thing about it. Everybody thinks that, I've got this whole crew after 2020. Before 2020, I had 9 guys. After
Mm.
2020 and since, it's me and one other guy. I have a team. So I have a team. You guys, other people might call them subcontractors, but they're a team because they're all part of Aloha Construction that turns over the end product. And that team consists of my tile setters, my painters, my plumbers, my electricians. It consists of all those guys, right? My drywaller. But as far as Aloha Construction, yeah, there's two of us. And then every so often, I'll have another person in as a laborer if I feel it to be necessary. But it's funny because when we show up, the two of us, on a job site, I get so many times people, oh, I was expecting 4 or 5 guys, but the time that we get things done in, people are mind blown that
Nice.
how efficient and effective. Because when you get a good work partner, it's like a dance. You guys just move. You know what I mean? You guys move
Mm-hmm.
together. This he knows what you're gonna be doing when, and you know what his next move is and everything. It's a dance, and so it takes a minute to find that guy and to get on that level that it works that way. But yeah, we're in almost 10 years, that going that way, and it's like, yeah, it works like a well-oiled machine.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, what's the price of gasoline over there?
Oh boy, so I gasoline, I don't really keep up with so much because of the fact that I don't have a choice. I need it. But if I
Yeah, you got
remember
to
right,
have it.
the last I spent, if I remember right, it was like 4.29 a gallon.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's not that bad. It
No.
fluctuates between 4.29 and 4.59. Yeah.
Dude, like you pay less for gas than I do.
What? Where are you guys at?
I just paid I'm in Tacoma, Washington. I just paid 550 for diesel.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting ripped off, man.
No
Okay,
kidding.
but how much is a gallon of milk?
Gallon of milk is about $10 a gallon.
Okay, all right, I got you there. I honestly don't know how much a gallon of milk is because I don't drink milk, but
To be honest with you,
it's probably
Jason, I don't drink milk either.
no, but it's always funny. It's like, well, how much does McDonald's cost over there?
Yeah.
It's just people just want to know. We're gonna get into a lot more pricing and things of that nature in our bonus episode, which is on our Patreon channel. Which we're winding down this episode, and we're gonna be jumping over to there in a minute. But talk to me a little bit, Mike. How has social media impacted you and your business and your brand?
Yeah. So social media has actually been pretty big, and in a handful of different aspects. Number one being obviously, if there's as a marketing avenue, because you got to think about it. I mean, first of all, it's if you've got somebody in the lower 48 looking for construction guys on this small little island, where do they turn to? People aren't flipping through the yellow pages anymore, and I mean, you get online to search, to do a keyword search. Who knows what you're going to end up with? You could do a keyword search for Kauai contractors, and you'll be pulling up contractors in California, Nevada, and stuff that aren't even registered out here. And so I think that people in the lower 48 will really turn to social media and keyword search in that to find contractors on this island. And sure enough, that's paid off huge. Where they'll tell me, I found you on Instagram, and Instagram is the only social media platform that I even use. And
Hmm.
and so
It's a
at
good one to
first,
choose if you're
yeah,
going to use only one.
that's
Whoops,
so that's what I've heard, and
my
that's why I
bad.
chose that. But then also, it's really gotten me in to connect with all these different manufacturers, and really getting some good, like, either FaceTime when we go to industry shows, and them know and us knowing each other prior to that, or just being able to reach out on the fly. Hey, I got a question on this, and have them respond back. And then
Yeah.
so on the manufacturer's end is one thing, but then also just connecting people in the same industry. Because, like, for decks, for example, one of our main distributors, I don't use them anymore now, I go through Oahu, but one of our main distributors on island had literally told me, I do too much when it comes to decks. You don't need to do all that. He goes, all that stuff that I see you doing is unnecessary. People don't need that. People don't want that. Just give them a deck. You guys take too long doing all this fancy stuff. And I couldn't believe that there was a distributor that was telling that to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have that kind of mindset. But if that's the kind of mindset that they have, I need to be able to talk with people that have my same mindset, which is why I've reached out to you in the past. I've reached out to Garrett Davis. I've reached out to Hollywood Decks. And the thing is that small little community that you could bounce ideas back off of and or get input and even give input, that's worth its weight in gold. That's some value right there.
Yeah. It's interesting how that works. I'm always a firm believer in paying it forward.
Me too.
I think that when you do, you're always going to receive back.
Yep. I agree
Mike
with you on
Young,
that.
Mike Young of the Young family of Kauai, you are a very special person, and we appreciate you being on our
appreciate that.
podcast. It's so fun to hear your past, because I honestly didn't know what to think. I had no idea where your start was, and now you're into, not you're finished, but you're established, and you've got your path figured out.
Yeah.
So I want to, in our bonus episode, I want to delve a little bit deeper into obtention of materials, what some of those companies are saying to you, some of the pricing comparisons I would just like to talk with you about, and then a few other things that I have questions for you. So
Perfect.
with that being said, Mike, thank you so much for being on the Dr. Dex podcast. We really appreciate you. And hope you guys enjoyed the listen. Thanks for chiming in, coming to our YouTube channel to see this as well. And if you liked it, guys, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Mike. All right, guys.
Aloha.
Talk soon. Over and out.